All right, welcome to The Explainer. The race for AI dominance, it just hit a whole new level. We're talking about an unprecedented summit in Washington, D.C., where the biggest names in tech sat down with the highest levels of government. Their mission? To draw up America's game plan for artificial intelligence. So let's get into what really went down. So where are we getting all this from? Well, this wasn't just any meeting. It was an AI summit, hosted by some seriously influential tech investors. And they did something pretty bold. They took the entire conversation out of Silicon Valley and planted it right in the center of American power. We're talking top execs, key policymakers, all in one room to shape the future of AI. This was a first. The whole point was to get things done at what the organizers called tech speed, fast. And boy, did it work. This summit ended up being the official stage for President Trump's first big policy speech on AI. It basically set a whole new course for his administration in this global AI race. Okay, so to really unpack all of this, we're going to look at 5 key things that came out of the summit. First up, how this whole AI race was framed. Then we'll get into the administration's actual strategy to win it. After that, we'll tackle the super controversial woke AI order, the massive fight over copyright, and finally, what all of this means for your own personal privacy. So first things first, how in the world does a summit like this become the place for a major presidential announcement? Well, it all came down to focusing the entire conversation on one really powerful idea. Framing AI not just as a piece of tech, but as a global competition that America absolutely has to win. And that framing, it's a direct callback to the 1960s space race. I mean, the message couldn't be clearer. This isn't just about economics. This is a generational challenge for global leadership. The argument being made is that this AI race will reshape our world even more profoundly than the race to the moon ever did. All right, so if it's a race, you need a strategy to win, right? Well, the summit laid out a really clear 3-part plan from the administration. This is designed to be the framework for American AI dominance. The strategy really breaks down into 3 main pillars. First up is innovation. Basically, get government red tape out of the way and, as they put it, let America's geniuses cook. Second, infrastructure. Look, AI needs a crazy amount of power, so the plan is to pour investment into our energy grid and data centers. And finally, AI exports. The goal here is to make the American tech stack the global standard so the whole world is running on our system. But beyond just the strategy, the speech also laid out 3 non-negotiable principles for how America wins. The idea is, 1, the prosperity that comes from AI has to benefit American workers. 2, any AI the government buys needs to be free of ideological bias. And 3, and this is a big one, our technology has to be protected from theft or misuse by our adversaries. Now, that second principle, the one about no ideological bias, that led directly to one of the most talked about moments of the whole summit, the signing of an executive order to prevent what the administration is calling woke AI in the federal government. And as you can imagine, this has kicked off a huge debate. And this really gets to a tough question, Where do you draw the line between making sure an AI is accurate versus having it promote a specific worldview? And maybe even more importantly, should the government be the one policing that line for the tech it decides to use? The concerns driving this weren't just theoretical. They were fueled by some really specific, high-profile examples that went viral. The source pointed to things like AI models generating historically inaccurate images or making what critics saw as just bizarre value judgments. Those kinds of moments really crystallized this fear that AI could be used to rewrite history or enforce a certain political agenda. So how does a policy like this actually work? Well, the argument for it is pretty straightforward. Taxpayer money shouldn't be funding AI that pushes ideology instead of accuracy. But here's the key safeguard. The fine print, if you will. The order only applies to AI that the federal government is buying. It doesn't tell private companies what they can or can't build, which is how it's designed to avoid a clash with free speech. Okay, let's shift gears to the next major battleground that came up, the data. Specifically, the data these incredibly powerful AI models are trained on. This is a massive legal and economic fight over the future of copyright, creativity, and basically who owns the public internet. So here's the fundamental conflict. For an AI model to get smart, it needs to digest, well, pretty much the entire internet. But what happens when that stuff is copyrighted? Do AI companies have to get a license for every single article, every book, every photo they use for training? That's the billion-dollar question. And look, this isn't some theoretical argument. Take this number, $20 million. That's the reported price per year that Amazon is paying the New York Times just to license its articles for AI training. That one deal shows you just how valuable this data is and why the fight over it is getting so intense. So you've got two clear sides emerging in this discussion. First, there's the fair use argument, which President Trump seemed to lean toward. It says that training an AI is like a human reading a book to learn. It's not theft. And proponents of this view argue that if you force companies to license everything, you'll cripple American innovation and hand a huge advantage to China. But then you have the copyright holders on the other side. Their argument is simple. We created this work, it's our property. And they believe that licensing is the only way to fund the future of journalism, art, and all kinds of creativity. And then, just to push the debate even further, some people at the summit asked an even more radical question. With AI that can generate endless new content and ideas, is it even realistic to think our whole system of patents and copyrights, a system built over centuries, will even exist in 5 years? It's a wild thought. All right, for our final topic, let's bring this all down to a very personal level. Right now, millions of us are having these incredibly personal conversations with AI chatbots, and that's creating a new and really urgent privacy problem, one that our laws just are not ready to handle yet. You know, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman put it really clearly. He said, if you talk to a therapist or a lawyer, there's a legal privilege attached to that conversation. It's protected. But we haven't figured that out yet for when you talk to something like ChatGPT. Your most private thoughts shared with an AI, they have no legal protection. So here's the reality today. Legally speaking, your chat history with an AI is treated exactly like your Google search history. What does that mean? It means it's not confidential. It can be subpoenaed by the government in a lawsuit or an investigation. And as more and more people use AI for things like therapy or coaching, that unprotected data becomes incredibly sensitive. So what can we do about this? The discussion really pointed to two possible paths forward. The first is a legal path. Could an AI model actually earn legal privilege for your conversations if it's, say, passed a professional exam like the bar? The second path is technical, a huge market opportunity from new AI chatbots that are encrypted by default, meaning the company itself never holds your data, so there's nothing for anyone to subpoena in the first place. So when you step back and look at it all, what this summit really makes clear is that the race for AI supremacy, it's not just about building better tech. It's a catalyst. It's forcing us to confront and maybe even rewrite some of the most fundamental rules of our society, from what counts as free speech, to who owns an idea, to what it even means to have a private conversation. And that brings us to the ultimate question that hangs over everything that happened at the summit. The technology is moving at a dizzying pace. As AI starts to rewrite the rules of information itself, the most important race of all might just be the one to decide who gets to write the rules for AI.